Hey, hi and hello guys, welcome to our UiPATH Impulse channel. Hope you guys are doing good. And today we are going to see what is data service and how we can create entities into a data service. Okay, let's get started. Let's see what is data service. The UiPath data service is a persistent data storage service bringing powerful no-code data modeling and storage capabilities to your RP projects. In other words, it offers a capability to define relational business objects and store records on the automation cloud. In simple words, the data service have a storage capabilities to store the records on our automation cloud. Let's see what are the key components of the data service. The key components of the data service will be entities, fields, and records and relationships. In this video, we are going to cover each key component in detail and how we can create entity, fields, data service in the UiPath data service. Let's explore each key components separately. Entity. So before move on to the theoretical part, let's see. So this is our data service. So this will be our main page in the data service. Here we can create entity, and by default you can see there is a inbuilt default entity has been created. Now let's create a new entity. To create a new entity, we just have to hit on create new. Let's give it a name as candidate details. Hit on save. So once you done that, you can see the entities have been created. So this is our entity, candidate details. So now you can see these are the system inbuilt field. You can see there are 5 fields which was created as automatically when we create entities: ID, update time, create time, created by, and update by. Now let's move on to the theoretical part. So now you can see entities are equivalent of tables in relational database. Entities are composed of fields of various types. Okay, they are saying that entity is an equivalent of tables. So we can consider entity as a data table. Now as our next key component is field, let's add a new field to our created entity. So to add a new field, hit on create entity, hit on create field. Let's create a field as name, and we can also select the type of the field. It can be text, number, yes or no type, date and time, relationship, and file, etc. And now we need to choose a type as text. Hit on save. Let's create another field called address, and here we can choose a type. And in case if this address field has to be mandatory in our form, we can check this field as required, so that every time we are filling the form, the address field will be mandatory. It shows it mandatory. And if you click on more details, we can mention the maximum length, and we can enter the default value for our created field. And we also have an option to choose a role-based field access. So let's say in your real-time scenario, if you're working on the web application, for some features the admin will be allowed to access, the user won't be allowed to access that particular feature. So if you see the description of this settings allows you to restrict data access if enabled. Roles need to be updated to grant explicit permissions for user to access. Okay, So if you select this, we can enable this role-based field access option. So as of now, we are good with this. Hit on save. Now we are going to create our third field, which is a phone number. And here the type of the phone number will be number, and hit on save. So now you can see we have created an entity, and now we have created a fields. You can see name, address, and phone number is displayed. So if you see here, the fields are equivalent of the columns in database. So in a table, we have created a column called name, address, and phone number. Here in this entity, we have created a field name, address, and phone number. The entities contains system inbuilt fields, default fields which are automatically created when you create a new entity. So as we discussed previously, when we create a new entity, these default fields will be created like ID, update time, create time, created by, updated by. So these things will be created by default. They can have a several types: text, number, yes or no, date and time, and relationship. So as we seen, while creating a field, we can choose a type of the field, text, number. So this is it. So far we have created entity and fields. Now let's move on to the next key components, which is records. So once we created a field, we need to add the data. So to add the data to the field, let's hit on data. So as of now, there is no data. To start, add new data by clicking on the button below. So now you can see there are three fields. One is name, address, and phone number. Let's enter the name as George, Bangalore, and phone number will be, let's enter some random phone number. Hit on save. So now you have seen the one data have added to that field. Let's add the another data. Let's say Michael, Chennai, and phone number will be some random number. So now you can see there are two datas has been added to that field. The data is called the records. The records are equivalent of rows in database. So this is considered to be a data row, right? So Michael record is one data row, and range is, and George will be one data row. So it is saying that records are equivalent of rows in database. The records can be created, manipulated, and queried both manually on data service or automatically by process execution. So this data can be added directly in the data service, and it is also possible that we can add the data while process execution with UiPath apps and in through UiPath Studio. Okay, so to show something in pictorial representation. So now this is an UiPath Academy. So we are in the UiPath data service course. So now you are seeing three tables, and these three tables is considered to be an entities as we discussed previously. And so here you can see fields, right? So this particular column is called fields, and we have data row, and these data rows is called records. And what is relationship? Relationships are equivalent of foreign keys in relational database model. A relationship means that a particular field can hold a reference to another entity. So this is one entity and this one is other entity. So there is something would be common in this entity. So now you can see the client name will be a common field here. So it is saying that particular field can hold a reference. So this will be being a reference as a relationship to access from the another entity. So the definition of the relationship means that a particular field can hold a reference to another entity. For example, in our case, the client ID field can hold a reference to a object of client data type. So this is what all about entities, records, and fields and relationships. So far we have created an entity name called candidate details. So, and we have created a 3 fields into our entity: name, address, and phone number. And we also add 2 records to our field. Okay, so in this video we have explained the overview of data service and the key components of entities, fields, records, and relationship. In next video we're going to see how we can use our entities and values, how we can add directly into a data service through UiPath apps. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hope you guys have find this useful. Please do like and share this video. Thank you so much, and we will see in next video. Bye bye, take care.